All right. So, as always, this presentation or opportunity to talk with everyone today is to, really give you guys a chance to talk about case design, structure, sales ideas. We talk about different ways to partner with, you know, businesses, people. Like, this is really your meeting. So when we do back to basics, it's a chance for you guys to ask any questions and all questions. So while we think of those questions or ideas, I mean, I can always talk about anything, but what I will say is that we have some great news. So the great collaboration, we have that officially set for May 3rd and half of May 4th. And I have been working on the agenda tirelessly, and we finally have a what I consider a good agenda, though it is subject to change depending on availability for people. But um, you know, I will give you guys a little sneak peek, maybe. But it is going to be at the Westin in Irving, Texas. Okay. And we have rooms blocked to allow people to come in and stay at the Westin. So we will have that set up very shortly. So this Westin property is normally about 230 bucks a night. And so we got the rate down to 169 a night. And like I said, it's a pretty cool venue. A lot of cool stuff around it as well. So this event, just to let you know, so again, May 3rd and May 4th is going to be our first pay event. It's a whopping $25. So when people hear that, they're like, "Wait, are you serious? It's $25 because what you're gonna get from it." I'll show the agenda because it is still up
That's
for
so cheap, Phil. You
what's
should have
that?
increased. That's so cheap. You should have increased.
Well, don't worry, don't worry. That's the going rate. So for February and March, it's $25. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and the reason why is we want to make sure that everyone has a good experience, right? So, this is kind of the breakdown of what we're looking at. So, Joe Ross is a great speaker from AIG. Know him very well. And so he was at our event last year. And so he'll kick it off on the main stage. And then really what the idea is now is we want to make sure that people see that this is really your meeting, right? So you have the ability to visit different booths or different places per se, as opposed to just, being stuck watching someone talk about mindset for 12 hours. Uh, so, we have our vendor partners, we'll have booths for them as well. But the idea really is it's all about collaboration. So that is the name, the Great Collaboration, because there's different ways you can make money. So we're going to have some tech, some upgraded tech at the meetings. And again, this is subject to change that we're still trying to make sure that some people make it there. But different ways to make money, alternative investments. We have my business partner Roderick talks about working in the athlete market. And so there's three different rooms with different ways that people will be able to go, see, enjoy, and ultimately, come
Oh,
out
ugh.
better people, right?
No, no.
So, um, sorry to mute that person. I think they left anyway. No, I muted him. But anyway, so sales ideas are all here. We have a great keynote speaker. If you guys don't know Jim Morris was called the rookie. One of the only people to, go into Major League Baseball at the age of 35. You might recognize him. I think Randy Quaid played him in the movie The Rookie. And then this is the fun part. We're actually providing lunch and breakfast on these 2 days. So dinners, you're kind of on your own. Lunch, once it's over, on your own. But how many events have you gone to where it's $25?
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
about to say that, Phil. This is awesome breakfast and lunch, and so much of so many speakers and on the rooms for just for 25. Wow.
yep, yep. So now I will say this, there's a gimme and a gotcha. We have a room for about 380 to 400 people. So there is a limited supply, if you will. So we encourage people to register now so we can get a good head count. Again, $25 for February and March. Goes up in April to $100. So 75 more dollars just for the cost of waiting. Kind of like life insurance. The longer you wait, the more expensive it gets. See what I did there? So, so this is the breakdown. Great speakers, lots of good information. So within the next day or so, you'll see a registration page for this. So if you want to stay abreast on it too, there's tgcconference.com, on Facebook. There is also, whoops, the great collaboration conference. So we have it here too. So this just has to get updated. But we got updated factoids here and everything as well, just to give everyone an idea of what's to come. So would love to see you guys there. I think, what we're putting in from a value standpoint it makes a lot of sense. And as we continue down this road, you guys will see this will be a living, breathing page. So we'll have micro collaborations, maybe in your neck of the woods. So we'll be doing lunch and learns and stuff like that across the country. This one is a little different from the lunch and learns. The lunch and learns have a different objective, but this one is a really big knowledge share, not designed for recruiting. So anyone who licks their chops to the idea of recruiting, we will kick out people for that. So it's really designed to help people come together and collaborate and grow.
One
So
question.
Well, one
yeah,
quick
what's up?
question, just in
Yeah.
case, are kids allowed of any ages? Sometimes
What I
families, if they come with kids.
Yeah, I would probably not have kids at this event. Like because you're gonna have a lot of people there, and I would say it's probably not the best place to bring kids, to be quite frank.
They can
Um,
in the hotel, right?
yeah, they can go to the hotel. Yeah, I mean, the rooms will be really nice. And it is a convention center, so there should be other fun stuff to do. Like I know the Westin up in Frisco, I mean, they had a golf course, they had all this fun stuff. So I'm sure I'll double check on what we got here, but yeah, there should be some fun stuff around. But I probably wouldn't bring them to the event.
Sure. Thank you.
No problem. Great question though. So yeah, that's the quick commercial. The heads up, for those who do not know me, because I'm seeing a few different names here. Phil Resch, been in the industry for 18 plus years, and did a lot of wholesaling. Wholesaled with MetLife, learned whole life, sold whole life during the great financial crisis of 2008. That was real fun, especially working with financial advisors. And then when MetLife moved to Charlotte, we didn't move with them. Then went to AIG in 2014, and saw the other side of the coin, the IULs. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. There's really no bad products, just bad agents. Because if you're caught in some place where all they tell you is one thing is bad and the other thing is good, then you find talking points and stuff like that. But different products are sold in the multiples of millions for a reason. Really, it's the value proposition for the consumer, what they feel is best for their position. So we here like to take that product agnostic approach to help people make sure that they can get to that point where they're protected and covered. That's the most important part is protection and coverage for our customers when things go bad, and also protection from the standpoint of retirement protection. So at the end of the day, that's the value proposition. So before I go into some kind of canned, presentation or opportunity, does anyone have any questions, uh, thoughts, stuff that you've been going through that you might want a second opinion? Because what I always tell people is, in a knowledge share, some people have the same issue that you may have, but they just don't say it. So if someone says it, you're actually helping other people out.
Hi, Phil. This is Raghav here. Just I
How's it
have
going,
a
buddy?
couple of good. So I just recently started, and then I have been working with a couple of prospects. So
Yeah,
today I had a call with one of the prospects, and couple of questions came up. Like one question was like I went with our selected companies like Corebridge, Symmetra, Columbus, and National Life Group. So I
yeah.
showed him, and the question came in as like. Uh, uh, are these big companies like I don't see State Farm, AAA in this. So can we trust these companies? And then what will happen if something happens and these is there a chance that when the event happens and they said that they deny my claim, I don't get paid or my family doesn't get paid?
That's a great question. I'll answer the second one first, and then
Hmm.
I'll show you how you can justify the first one second. Okay.
Okay.
So in 2008, when I worked at MetLife, we did not take what they call TARP funds, TARP. Like if you look up, in the Google TARP funds of 2008, you'll see it was Troubled Asset Relief Program or TARP. And what happened was is you would see that there are several companies that took TARP funds, especially in the banking industry, the insurance industry, automotive. Like there was a surge of support because these companies were considered too big to fail. Okay. At MetLife, they didn't need the TARP funds, to be quite frank, and so they didn't take them. However, AIG, Protective, Lincoln, Prue, I think as well, all took TARP funds along with General Motors, Chrysler, Citibank, and things like that. Now, why do I bring that up? The reason why all these people ran into this issue is the subprime mortgage, issues, or, that was at least for the insurance side, I know with AIG. And what happened is everyone, started losing money and needing funds for help. Well, when you think of, say, an illustration, so if I run an illustration, which I don't know if I can do fast enough. So let me see if I have one that I've done recently that I can pull up quickly. Give me one sec here. So where am I? We'll go with me. We'll go with derp. So I'll just pull up an illustration here. We'll just go with Corebridge. This is the other side of Corebridge, without the living benefits, but this is the important part. Okay. So you'll see in the 0% column, it has some phrases in here like guaranteed charges. Okay. Even in 2008, when companies took TARP funds, they still did not put their products at guaranteed charges. Okay. So that means, say today, they have admin costs that cost $10 a month, whatever. The admin costs could go up to $180 a month. That would be your max charges, and it's in all the contracts. Carriers can raise charges to make sure the books stay kosher. So these illustrations show that guaranteed charges, worst case scenario, which have never happened even in 2008, and you're telling me that you're also going to get 0% for, in this case, 23 years. That's because I started taking income out. 23 years of zero returns, the longest time frame we've had in a row of zero or negative returns is the Great Depression, which was 3 years in a row. Three, not 23. We're required by law to show this to let people know that with IULs, there is a component of reliance on cash that grows from the indexing. Okay. So that's all that really is. And if a client is 100% uncomfortable with the fact that the guaranteed column, even though statistically speaking, it's impossible, still don't want that, well, guess what? We have whole life where you pay guaranteed premium, you have guaranteed death benefit, and all the other stuff. So we can overcome that. It just depends on how much they want to spend. How much do your fears turn into a cost issue is really it. And what happens is a lot of people get hesitant because they'll have a whole lifer say, oh, look, your policy is going to lapse in 24 years. See, it shows it right here. It's like, that's not it. That's based on guaranteed charges and absolutely no returns for a 20 plus year. And that's also guaranteed charges day one, not even like 10 years from now, day one. So no carrier would sell a policy that way. Now, to move on to, what happens if, all right? So I already told you no insurance companies even went bankrupt in 2008. Or if I didn't, I'm telling you now. They even let banks go under. That tells you that in the government, in the United States, insurance companies are more important than banks. Okay? They're very important for several reasons. However, in this scenario, what you'll find is that um, even those banks, let's say, or sorry, even those insurance companies, let's say they don't want to sell insurance anymore, which has happened before. A good example, let's see, who owns the Hartford's insurance, sorry, life insurance block and business. See if it tells me. Yep. So this is accurate. So I remember when this happened. I was competing against the Hartford in Edward Jones because I used to work with financial advisors. And what happened is the Hartford wanted to stop selling life insurance and annuities. They wanted to focus on property and casualty. And so they sold their business to Prudential. Why would Prudential buy their block for $615 million? Does anyone have an idea why?
Depending on the number of policies they had at that time.
Well, that's important. So when you think about the policies, but why would someone, these aren't new policies, these are
Mhm,
enforced policies, right? So
mhm.
why would another insurance carrier want to buy someone else's block of business?
No, I don't have any idea.
Is it the premium? The amount of premium that's coming in?
What's up, Tia? You have an
Okay,
idea?
is it the amount of premium that's coming in? Are they
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
residuals, right? Okay.
Yeah. Because that's correct. So a good example is when you see the IUL being sold, you'll see the accumulation value on the far right-hand column showing $17,000, but the surrender value is 73.29. So IULs have surrender schedules of usually 10 to 15 years. And why is that? Because the insurance company is recouping the money they paid out. They pay out commissions to IMOs, BGAs, agencies, and then the agent. So what happens is, in order for them to recoup their loss, it is a drag on the policy. But when you sell a block of business like the Hartford did, that's all in-force business. So it's continued revenue coming in that Prudential did not have to pay the commissions on. Yeah, they paid the Hartford $615 million, but in the grand scheme of things, they're getting recurring revenue coming in from all those enforced blocks of business. And that's why usually after 15 years, 10 or 15 years inside these policies, if funded appropriately, the cost of insurance drop because the insurance company has been made whole, and then your cash usually explodes if you're doing an income type solve. So what's happening really is these companies, these large companies, so you want that's why working with the companies we talk about have been here for over 100 plus years. I don't offer or would never recommend a company that has been under at least 100 years. So even though they haven't heard them, doesn't mean that they don't exist. National Life Group is 176 years old, 175 or 176 years old. It's literally the second oldest insurance company in the United States, right behind New York Life. Now, when you talk about someone like a AAA, a State Farm, uh, both good companies for two different reasons. Okay. The idea for those companies really is property and casualty is their forefront. So a lot of times, what you saw in the past was people like MetLife did it, AIG did it. They had two legs. They had a retirement and life side, and they had a property and casualty side. Because what the methodology was is that when one was doing poorly, the other was doing good, and they kind of offset each other to keep, an equal balance for the portfolio. But what they ended up finding out was they actually went kind of together. And so that's when MetLife sold off their life and retirement distribution to create Bright House. There's still MetLife for property casualty, corporate, health and things like that. And then you have Bright House for the life insurance and annuities. Same thing with Corebridge. Corebridge is the life and retirement piece that became its own distribution that was originally owned by AIG. Now, AIG is still around as a property and casualty company, but they don't have a life and retirement distribution anymore. And to peel back the onion just a little bit more on Corebridge, you're still selling American General policies. So there's still a 100 plus year old insurance company, American General, life insurance products that you're actually selling. Columbus is part of Western and Southern, another 100 plus year old company. Columbus has three legs to it. Well, four really. There's Columbus, or Western and Southern has four legs. There's Columbus, there's Lafayette. So you have an IUL side, you have a whole life side. They have a company not to be confused with Integrity. They have a annuity company called Integrity, and then they also own Gerber Life. So when you talk about like guaranteed issue policies, so Western and Southern has all of those companies. So the reason why you don't see them is because you're not in our industry, whereas we see them all the time. So does that help the second question at least?
Yes, Phil. But
Okay.
one more on that front, right?
Yeah.
The person was in that his mindset was not about the company's financial health. His question was like, now I take my policy, I give all the details of my personal details for real time, nothing miss or false informations. But
Yep.
later, at some point of time, when the claim comes in, they deny it, saying some reason, saying that okay, because of this clause, your claim is denied.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's a completely different animal. And I
Hmm.
would almost say that that's my fear would be that they're trying to hide something, to be quite frank.
Okay.
So, the only way an insurance policy wouldn't pay out is in the
Mm-hmm.
first 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
they have the ability to kind of research to see if you lied, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after that, what they would do is say you passed away in year four, say you were a male getting female rates, they'd recalculate the costs and then change your death benefit to, equal out what you were supposed to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you committed suicide in the first 2 years, they can nix the claim. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have, say, a history of cancer, and there's a gentleman who, unfortunately, I don't know if he's still alive, but he bought a policy from AIG, and as he bought it, he actually got a good health statement, which is part of the policy delivery that says, my health hasn't changed since this original offer. Well,
Mm-hmm.
in between the issuance of the policy and him signing that, he actually went to the hospital because he had stomach pains. Well, turns out he found out he had stomach cancer and
Mm-hmm.
they denied it. They actually refunded his policy because, there was a change. And so urgency is probably the most important thing because the policy is not in force until there is actual cash bound and, stuff happens. Stuff happens all the time. I
Mm-hmm.
worked, in between working with MetLife, and then my regional VP position, I was an in-house general agency for career agents at AIG. And there was one office in Maryland where they had a client who was a smoker, smoked tobacco, sorry, smoked cigars, and he got a tobacco rating from AIG. Well, we have some carriers that you can get non-tobacco rates as long as you admit it's cigars. And they fought with the underwriters at AIG because they wanted all the business to stay in-house. And they said, how is this carrier over here giving non-tobacco and you're giving tobacco? We want to keep it with the QOL product, not sell outside. Well, in between them fighting, because they weren't going to win at AIG, they still didn't take the policy of Prudential, and the guy had a heart attack in between.
Mm-hmm.
Both offers off the table. So there's a bit of urgency when you talk about stuff like this, but you also have to make sure that in the process, the client is not hiding anything.
Mm-hmm.
The only time where you would see a what I would consider an unlimited, uh, misrepresentation concern is if you file a claim for living benefits with AIG National Life Group specifically. They underwrite on the back end for living benefit claims. Good example, we had this girl down in Miami. She was a Instagram like megastar, whatever. So she gets a policy, and then 6, 7 months later, she has a stroke. Well, filled out the application. You can look at the application. It says she's clean as a whistle. She got preferred plus, and then they did underwriting on the back end and found out that she had a history of strokes because she tried to file a living benefit claim. And when they look at the living benefit claim, they underwrite from when you bought the policy to when you have the claim to see if you're a liar, liar, pants on fire. Now, death benefit to your contestability. After that, you're good for the most part. But when living benefits, there is a bit of a, especially the ones you don't pay for, they're built into the product. Those claims like chronic and critical illness are going to have a longer extension, basically the lifetime of the policy, because they underwrite on the back end. Does that make
Thanks
sense?
for
Okay.
yes, yeah, this helps. This clarifies a lot of things.
Good. Yeah, that's obviously that's what we're here for. I want to make sure that, you have clarity. Now, if someone cares really about, the value of the company, like most people will do the stupidest thing, they'll go to Google and say top insurance companies, and you'll see like Nerd brings out their comparisons and it's a sponsored, so like you see Farmers, you'll see Nationwide Progressive. These are not your typical life insurance companies. Nationwide can be,
mm,
but these are more P&C, property and casualty. So, if you want to look for it, you'll find it on the internet. Now, if you want cold hard facts, obviously with our organization, we partner through Three Mark Financial. They give us a lot of great data and a lot of, I would say, free things to help you with your position. So if you went to quotes and you went to the term and UL quote illustrations, so if I click on this and I go to vital quote, like if I'm running a term quote, okay. Now, for example's sake, if I wanted to, there's a thing right in the middle here. It's called vital quotes. And what
mm,
vital quotes do is it allows you to look at the financials of the companies, or vital signs, excuse me. So I can actually go through and pull up, like I check specific ones. So if we go through, and I was looking at Equitrust on the annuity side, but let's just say, for example's sake, you pull up Symetra. So the one you want is probably the Symetra Life Insurance Company of as well, I would say the national one. So let's check this out. I hit next. I hit view report. What will happen is it'll give a breakdown. It'll also give Comdex scores. You guys familiar with Comdex scores?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the wrong one because it would have scores here. So I'll go back and pick the right one. So this happens too. Symetra. Okay. Did I pick the right one or did I pick the wrong one again? I'll pick them both. Okay, just in case. So you can pick up to three anyway and view the report. And what it'll do is it'll show a breakdown of everything. For those who don't know what Comdex is, I like Comdex because it gives you like a grade. It takes all the ratings from all the companies and it gives you a grade. Now, decent companies are going to be anywhere from 75 to 100. I say 100 because you'll have people like Northwestern Mutual, uh, Prudential, and I think New York Life are, top Comdexes. And that's just because they have their tried and true value from being a mutual company. A lot of times with mutual companies, you don't have to expose everything like you do with a stock company. So you'll see A rating, A rating, A rating. They've got total admitted assets of 52 million. It might even be billion. They just cut off the last three zeros. But, invested assets, bonds, which is very secure. Pretty much all companies have some form of bonds as a majority of their portfolio because really they're looking for about a 4% return, give or take. Um, Not subprime mortgages, but regular mortgages. So once again, looking at like Fannie and Freddie kind of mortgages, if you will, a little bit in stocks, things like that. So this can give you an idea of how they're performing to give confidence on the stability of the company as well. So you have the ability to do that again through the portal quotes, term UL, vital quote, and then it was that middle option, to give you the vital suites or vital signs. So you can noodle around with it. Like I said, you can have, I believe, three, maybe four carriers at one time. But if your client is really like, well, what's the ratings? What's this or that? You can say, well, A. They'll say, what's Weiss? Well, no one uses Weiss. They're just there. So that gives you just an idea of how you can check the financial stability of companies. A little cherry on top, so to speak.
Thanks, for this insight helps.
No problem. Any other questions or things that you wanted to kind of hear or talk about?
I have one that's somewhat similar. It's not so much about the performance of the insurance company. Um, it's just once you run the quote, how do you know who to choose?
That's a loaded question.
I know.
That's a very loaded question. So when you're running quotes, who do you know who to choose? Well, obviously in the industry, we have, as I'll show you here, several carriers to play with. For those who don't realize why I have all of my, stuff with Three Mark Financial. Three Mark Financial doesn't appoint agents directly, first and foremost. So if you're like, "Wow, screw Phil, I'm just going to go to Three Mark," they don't appoint agents directly. They work with agencies. They're probably, I think, the top five or eight biggest BGAs in the country. And the reason why I partnered with them was for two reasons. One, I had a great relationship with them. They were one of my accounts when I was an RVP. So I knew the back office, I knew all the people, friendly, great people. Two, is this reason right here. 30 plus carriers at your fingertips. And the big thing is that typically you have two sides of the house. Most people, when you talk about insurance, have either a PPGA model or they have a brokerage model. Okay. Brokerage is typically your crusty old white guy, right? Talking about Prudential, Lincoln, John Hancock, Protective, Mass Mutual, big names, right? PPGA is usually your personal producing general agencies, is what they call them. Multi-level marketing can be in there too, because typically what they do is they pick four carriers and just pounce on them, right? So, uh, so what I like to say is with Three Mark, I have objectivity to allow value in 30 plus carriers. But Tia, to go to your point, is how the hell do you pick the right ones, right?
Right.
So, so what I've done is I've picked a select core five that could get 95% of the job done without having to go to every single carrier. Now, if you have some carriers that have special niches or things like that, and we can always talk about that based on a case design. So if you have someone with like X, Y, or Z, then we can shop it to the entire industry. That's not a problem. But when you talk about design, so for example's sake, like when I used the software here, it's called Insight. If you guys like this software, we have the ability to give you a discounted rate. But what it does is, it can create, as I was kind of showing you before, these little pretty presentations that you can put together. So it makes it nice and sexy for the client to see or whatever. But I've never said insurance was sexy, so I apologize for saying that. For anyone watching the recording, I apologize. Whatever. So with this, I can actually shop all the carriers, but what you'll end up finding is there's way too many carriers for it to even be a value proposition for you to learn them all. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of them do pretty much the same thing. The reason why I like certain carriers is for certain reasons. And so, um, if we go back here for a sec, like AIG Partners Group because of the living benefits. Okay. They go toe to toe with National Life Group. National Life Group was the originator of living benefits, but the guy who made them came over to AIG after and created the quality of life portfolio. So you have chronic critical terminal illness, living benefits. You have up to $2 million or the size of the face amount. And then you also have it on term, perm. They have a death benefit focused IUL. They have a accumulation focused IUL. So they fit a lot of buckets there. And and they also are priced very well for the consumer, but they also have a bonus program for the agent. So just started, this it just started again this year, January 1 to December 31st. The more you sell, the more you make. So if you sell Partners Group product only over $33,000, you are now in their bonus pool and you get 20% of whatever you tally throughout the rest of the year uncapped. So, for example's sake, last year or in 2023, I sold enough to get a big check and and unfortunately this doesn't work at the bank, so thankfully they wired me the money too. But the idea is that they have a very good story. They're the only carrier in the industry who has a bonus program really designed more for the agent versus the BGA. Okay. So if you hit over 33,000 with QOL in a calendar year, you're in Bonusville. And the top guy this year made over $100,000, I believe, or yeah, in bonus money. So it's a very lucrative contract for the agent as well as very beneficial products for the client. But they're not one size fits all. So Columbus, I like them a lot because they only have an S&P in their IUL. So a lot of people are getting in trouble nowadays by showing these indexes that are proprietary. National Life Group and North American are both in a RICO case, basically stating that they showed false expectations of their illustrations. So the pace setter for National Life Group, the fidelity account for North American were set to be an overpromise, underdeliver. And so Columbus only shows the S&P 500, and that's why I kind of like them. Plus, thankfully you guys only see it from the shoulders up. I'm not light on my feet. I'll put it that way. They have a table shave on their permanent product up to 1 million. Tables C, B, and A get shaved to standard on their IULs. So diabetes is a big issue in all across the country. That usually nails people and gets them into substandard risk classes. Well, you can shave the tables and get to standard with Columbus. Um, MLG, the originators of the living benefits. You can't go anywhere without hearing about National Life Group. They also can do 403B plans. They can also do Roth IRAs. You can put $100 a month into a National Life Group policy without that 5,000 or 10,000 minimum. So if you really want to take care of your clients, you can do a Roth or a traditional IRA, help them out. You're not making a ton on it, but it's the value that you're providing by being there for the client. Um, so then we got North American. They have the second most cost efficient living benefit term platform right behind QOL. National Life has the highest limits of living benefit companies for non-med. They can go up to, I believe, 3 million on term, 5 on perm, or 2 million on term, 3 million on perm, but somewhere in there. I could actually look it up here, um, but yeah, North American's right behind them with cost efficient term and living benefits. And then I really like Symetra because they're a non-living benefit company that has a really cost efficient protection IUL and a really solid accumulation IUL. And they also have Swift Term. I actually got a 50-year-old term in a day, $3 million. So Swift Term is very quick, very efficient. So, for those of you agents who work with, SBA loans, things like that, if you want to get it done quick, that's your go-to.
Where? Phil?
Symetra.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. So, a lot of these guys have microsites and things like that. And so like, Symetra, they have a microsite for almost everything. But oh, sorry, that's a foreign national one. So Swift term. So they've got microsites, they actually got someone from submission to commission in 18 minutes. So so it can be rather quick, to say the least. So those TIA are my core five. You could easily get about 95% of clients with all of those carriers. but you
Mhm.
know, the other carriers have name brand reputation. But if you look at the cost efficiency of them compared to what we got there, you'll see that the core five that I typically work with are pretty solid.
Okay. Okay.
So.
That helps.
But
Uh,
if you ever have a client, well, I'll get to you in one sec, Jay. If you have a client or a case design that you want to run through, for example's sake, we can gladly do it here, and I could run all the carriers if if you want to see it. The only thing I would say is your mic is coming in a little muffled, so I was kind of reading, a little bit and I might have misread some of it. So if you had a case design that you want to kind of run through, we can definitely do that and I could show you, all the carriers and so you can kind of see that I'd prove my point, from that standpoint.
So a quick question on the table share from the Columbus. Is
Yeah,
that also possible for a term case?
no, it
Or
is not. No, because there's fat in the IULs, so there isn't in term because it's dirt cheap. But one of the success stories we had when I first started with Valor is we had a guy who had heart condition, 8.0 A1C. He got um he had sleep apnea as well. And we got him a standard for $3 million with Columbus. And he bought one term and two terms and one IUL. So I don't like selling Columbus's term. It's not that it's not priced well, it's okay, but they also have really, really bad comps and they really just don't want to sell their term. You can kind of tell it because of the how they've poorly priced their compensation for term insurance. So I look elsewhere first from
so,
that
so I,
standpoint.
I actually got a person who got table C from a different company. So we
Mhm.
just want to try out. So I thought maybe Columbus would be the better one.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you talk permanent, you could say, "Hey, I could get you permanent today. It costs more, but it'll cost less in the long run if you if you want to go that route." But that'll be a tough swing. And I think JP, you did an X-ray on that, right? Or no?
Yes, we already did that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that you did the right route from that standpoint to kind of see what the term companies would do. And kind of Tia, from what your question was, how do you pick the right carrier? Uh, Put a flag in the ground with a carrier you like, maybe two or three. And then if you put something in and you get a bad rating, the cool thing about how we partner with Three Mark is they'll take all the records from the carrier that they can get. Again, some carriers can be a pain in the you know what, pull them back and then shop it out to the other carriers so you're not nailing the MIB like five times. Um, and that's the difference between a brokerage mentality versus I used to work wholesaling. I would work with an MLM company and they would literally like butcher someone's MIB. It's like they didn't work with AIG, so then I'm going to submit them to North American, then I'm going to submit them to Nationwide, then I'm going to submit them to F&G and all these other ones. And it's like you're getting decline after decline after decline when we have an underwriter on staff who is so good at his job. He helped me secure that $200 million on a hotelier. Ended up buying 100 million, but it's still $100 million. So I mean, they'll look for stuff like that to make sure you got the right value for the client. So it's a big deal.
Okay,
Yeah.
that gives me a bit of clarity.
Yeah. Also, I hear a bit of clarity too.
Yeah, I
So
turned my headphones off. My headphones are, they out for the count.
it's all good. All good. Yeah, I was gonna say, like sometimes have my headphones on, I'll be walking around and all of a sudden people are like, dude, I can't hear you. It's like because of the wind. I was like, well, I can hear you perfect. They're like, yeah, it doesn't work on the other side. So if anyone has
Right.
recommendations on headphones that can work for the listener as well as the speaker, I'd always love to find out because I'm a headphone junkie. I've got AirPods, I've got Beats, I've got the Max, like I'm always trying to find something to help my end user hear me better and I can be mobile.
Right, right.
So
Not there yet.
not there yet. No. So, I mean, what I would say is, we've kind of, I mean, golly, sorry, almost been an hour. So does anyone have any other questions or anything else that you kind of want to go through, or so far does this make sense?
A quick question, Phil.
Yeah.
Are there any other companies like Columbus who offer the plain vanilla S&P?
Well, yes and no. So like if I were to, for example's sake, let's say I do another case, and so like, JP, you have this software, but so let's just say you have a 40-year-old male. I'm not in Alabama. Who would want to live in Alabama, right?
Not even
Right?
me, and I do.
And wow, all right, throwing it out there. So, so JP, for you, like, in this scenario, if we're doing IULs, like I've kind of showed you this before, we'll solve for a premium, and it's just a solve, whatever. So here, they have it directly starting with the S&P 500. So you have every right to do the S&P 500. If I were to take this and show you it in WinFlex, and I was going through and I was running the illustrations through WinFlex, which is what most people will do, what happens is you have every choice possible to go to, like if I did the QOL, whatever it may be, and I did the solve index strategy, I could put 0 here and I could do 100% here. So the reason why people don't like doing that is because their illustrations won't look as pretty. So that's the biggest fault you'll see is that people will try and make sure that their illustration looks better than the other illustration. So like you know, say JP, you and I are going to pursue Tia. Tia is the client and Tia is a thrifty shopper. So she comes to me first and says, Phil, I want a death benefit focused IUL or this or that, or I want an accumulation IUL. And I'm like, all right, well, I have morals and standards. So I'm like, well, Tia, the MLSB and PIMCO has only been around for like 8 years, 7 years. So I would like to put you more in the S&P account. She's like, all right. And then say my returns, you get tax-free income of like $30,000 a year, making this completely up. So she goes, all right, well, that's cool. Let me have the illustration. I'm like, okay, here you go. And then she goes to JP because she hears JP is the new, agent across the block. He's got a smoothness to him that Phil doesn't have. And he goes and does 100% in the MLSB, and it gives $50,000 of income. Which one is right? You know, there's there's no telling what the future holds, right? But statistically speaking, you have a better horizon with the S&P 500 versus these index strategies that have come out from the carriers of proprietary indexes. And so me, for my kids, uh, I did 60 in S&P, but I didn't want to miss out on MLSB and PIMCO, so I did 20 in each of them. And in doing that, over the summer last year, I would get a 14% return from the PIMCO and MLSB, and I was capped at 11.5% for the S&P. And then later on in the year, the S&P stayed 11.5, but the MLSB and PIMCO dropped. And so you'll see variations all the time. but what I always like to say was tried and true is the S&P 500. Um, Symetra does NASDAQ as well. So I usually do 50-50 between Symetra's S&P and NASDAQ to have two different major indexes. Some have Russell 2000. I haven't seen the Hang Seng much anymore, if at all. There might be one or two carriers that actually still use that, but most of the time, what you're going to see is S&P is the dominant, and the NASDAQ is starting to pop up more places. So so yeah,
Thanks, Phil.
no problem. Um, any other questions? Good stuff. Thumbs up. Anybody listening? Anybody
Good
out
stuff.
there?
Good stuff.
I always like to see if people are awake. Nana, what's up with you, buddy? How's it
Oh,
going?
Philip, just been sitting here and absorbing everything.
Ah, yeah, of course. The intellect, right? So, what I would say too is for those of you um who are trying to like get out and prospect, right? I was thinking about this, and tomorrow we are going to have a presentation. It's going to be at 4 o'clock. I'm going to see if I can pull it up real quick to give you a sneak peek. But the idea of what we have going is in regards to prospecting. Um, Here it is. Yeah, so tomorrow I would highly encourage if you can, 4 o'clock Central. We're going to talk about a strategy in regards to prospecting. So different ways to help proven sales techniques for closing life insurance sales. If you can't make it, this will be up on the YouTube as well. But what I would say is this is at 4 o'clock Central tomorrow. And I was thinking about it earlier today as I was kind of going through this and saying to myself, I'm like, there's different ways that people approach prospecting. And I often see online, people are like clamoring for leads, lead generation, and stuff like that. And I say to myself, I'm like, all that stuff, in my opinion, it's just like an agent going like this, like holding their phone, like, why won't you ring? Why won't you give me money? When we got to be out there talking to people. The more people you talk to, the more opportunities you're going to get. So, what I would say in the coming weeks is we're going to emphasize, like on these calls, we're going to emphasize net law. So, if you guys haven't used net law, how you can use it as a door opener, and then also annuities, because let's be honest, no one wants to talk about death, they want to talk about retirement. So we're gonna kind of dive into some of that stuff as well. Again, bring your questions, your ideas, your thoughts on stuff that you want to see as well. But I think it'll be important if you guys can make it tomorrow for something like this. It'll just give some pointed and targeted ways to have conversations with people. Because the big thing of what we do is just having conversations. The more people you talk to, the more at bats you're going to get. The more at bats you're going to get, the more opportunity you have.
Philip, if you could just put the link for the Thursday sessions as well, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
For Zoom.
So what I'll say is that most people, because I can see it, uh, don't look at the newsletter, but I will let you know that all of these are in the newsletter for the I'll pull it up here. Newsletter. All right. So you'll see right here, I did final expense. This is my least favorite topic of all time, final expense, but it is part of the insurance industry. So you'll see back to basic training here. So in the newsletter, you'll have information, stuff like that, upcoming events. But for the final expense one, you'll see now that it has various topics, including sales ideas, and it has them locked in. So if I have to cancel it for whatever reason, I will, but you'll know. Usually in the newsletters, I'll tell people it's canceled. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this in the chat. Okay. Um, yeah, I think that should work. If someone wants to click on it real quick and make sure that's accurate. So you put your information in here, and what happens is it should give
Yes, it
you
worked.
all these blocks. Okay, good. Thank you, Tia. So it should block it on your calendar so you'll have your own registration link and everything. So when you come in, because I've sent my, reminder to people in the past, and there's like 10 Phil Reshes in the meetings. And so what I would say is just register on your own link, and it should pop up on your computer. Either Google, Yahoo, or Outlook, I think, are the main ones that they have on it. But nonetheless, that'd be the best way to do it. Um, so what we talk about Wednesday nights is more this raw opportunity for people to just talk, share, ask case design questions, sales ideas, how to overcome objections, whatever it may be. And then usually on this one, we talk product, sales ideas, the other stuff. So one is process, one is sales ideas and product, and so we marry them together. And so, the one that we use for tonight would be really for people who want to, have the opportunity, like if you're bringing in green peas, if you're an organization and you're trying to grow this and that, you leverage this opportunity to help people from that standpoint. Or if you're just, you know, a lone wolf, so to speak, and you're just trying to learn the ropes. Either way, that's what these are designed for, is to really help people from that standpoint. So this is less lecture. The other one is a little bit more, but I always encourage people to ask questions. So those who did ask questions, I appreciate it. Anything else? I think I don't want to say I want to dive into a new topic completely, but I would think that I would either wrap at this point, or if someone has any other questions, let me know.
I may have one for probably next week. I talked to somebody. It sounds like it may be like a guaranteed issue type situation, but
Yeah.
he's gonna gather some more information before we meet, so that'll
Yeah.
probably be next week.
Okay. Yeah, if you had like any type of heart attack, stroke, or things like that, just so you know too, on the 3 Mark portal under the underwriting resources or underwriting and impaired risk. And through here, what you have is these underwriting questionnaires. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if your client had some type of ailment or issue, they're like, hey, yeah, I had cancer. It's like, which one? There's a generic there's a generic cancer questionnaire, but because cancer is so, questionable in certain things. So let's say, for example's sake, I click on cancer. It gives you a questionnaire. So I tell people this all the time. It's garbage in, garbage out. So if you tell someone, "Hey, you had cancer. What happened?" Well, I'm fine. I've been fine for 5 years. It's like, all right, well, that gives you nothing. That's garbage. What type of cancer? When initially diagnosed? Any history? When was it treated and how? And what grade was it? All that stuff matters. So
Okay.
then we can actually take that and put it into the X-ray software, to kind of get you a tentative offer.
Okay.
So that would be, I would highly recommend going in and seeing, if there's an ailment that was discussed, how we can overcome that. And that involves a little homework from the client too.
Right. Okay.
So
That's good to know.
absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of resources on this. And looking to beef up the Valor site too. So, taking some of the best stuff that we have in the 3 Mark portal, and then going to beef up the Valor site with some learning management systems and other stuff too. So more to come on that. This is the year of technology and upgrades. So it's a slow burn, but you'll see more and more stuff on the Valor site as opposed to different sites. So, but yeah, more to come. So with that, 9:07. I think we had a good hour here.
Question.
Oh, JP, what? What? No.
So specifically with Corebridge, you have QL, the regular application, and the Simply Choice, right? So will the Simply Choice version makes it faster approval, or is just that Simply Choice version will let the user to fill in all his health details? Which version will make the app decision faster?
Simply Now. You'll always want to use Simply Now at this point. So whether IUL or term, just use Simply Now. So the other one is supposed to be Sunset. I don't know why they still have it up. I might ask, my RVP that, but I've done everything through Simply Now at this point, and it's just I've done it for IULs in term. So if they can't get permanent, if like I had a $1.5 million term case go through, and I did on Simply Now, but I still had to do the labs. They did a phone interview, so things like that. So I just do everything on Simply Now.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so I have one more client who has an existing policy, table C rating, but
Mhm.
if I could get a better one, he's okay to cancel the old one. So is it okay to clearly mention all those in the application? Will that
You have
help?
to anyway. Yeah, you have to anyway. So, like for that one, if you go into Simply Now and it says your client qualifies for automated underwriting, do they want to do that? You could say no because they probably will have to do lab work anyway. So that would eliminate you from asking all the dirty questions because the examiner is going to ask them anyway. So anytime I know someone has to do labs, I ask no part B questions because it's pointless for me to do it because the lab technician is going to do it too. So save yourself some time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's see, numbers are dwindling. The mood elevator of Phil is starting to fade. I got to get up early for a doctor's appointment, so I'll bid you guys adieu for the evening. Really appreciate you guys jumping on. I know usually I remind people for the Thursday, and the Wednesdays seems to be like just awesome. So I like the engagement, like the opportunity. Just let me know what I can do to help serve you guys any better than I'm doing now. And thank you guys, and we'll talk soon.
All right, thank
Thank you,
you.
Philip. Have a
Bye
nice
bye.
evening.
You too. See you. Bye.